She won the tournament. That's it, and that's why. She defeated her opponents, and I stood by her side. She was the best choice out of all the candidates that remained. You might be asking, how so? Fair enough question, and I'll answer it. If you think I'm just a dumb voter who threw away his vote, then I ask you to have the same level of courage to stick around and hear me out that you used to claim I tossed out my vote. I think that's fair. I'll speak superficially, and then I'll go into the more personal reasons why I didn't toss out my vote. Okay, superficially, Jill Stein won easily because she was honest. This is a tournament for who controls the country, not what party you must side with. Donald Trump was forged from a racist society of wealthy people. He didn't care about anyone but himself, his name, legacy, money, TV shows, yes men, and anyone else who kisses his ass. That's not good at all. He boasted about a wall to keep Mexicans out of the USA. He wants to block Muslim immigrants. He doesn't respect women in general, and the one black guy that wanted to help him do better was turned away and thrown out of the Trump rally. Trump didn't want black people staying in his homes, apartments, and now not even giving him advice on a sheet of paper. Trump lost to Jill Stein. Hillary Clinton, along with her husband, placed into law the ability to incarcerate black people at an alarming rate. Because of them, black people's homes were morally torn asunder, and the debts created from the three strikes deal and more bankrupted millions. She supported NAFTA and trade agreements that shipped a mass majority of jobs overseas, leaving working class people with nothing. Our jobs in manufacturing, warehousing, and general labor decreased by the hundreds of millions in just 3 years, bleeding into the Bush administration. With rhetoric of needing to bring black people to heel before they can be understood of the crimes that 100% of them make was not so favorable either. Clinton being backed by corporations was also a no-no. Her leaked emails exposing her true agenda was just a small added blow to her tournament standings. See, Trump verbally came out against Jews, Mexicans, Muslims, black people, women, and the corporations until privately he was discovered begging them for financial help. Of all his hate spreading, not once did Hillary speak against it. Trump is arrogantly xenophobic, and yet Hillary, at the very least, Hillary was apathetic to it all. They both lost points in the tournament, and I couldn't see them making a comeback. Jill Stein was against everything Clinton and Trump stood for. That's good. Now, all of this information would not be heard of on paid media. They can't cover that stuff unless they are told to in order to steer the voters. I want to actually thank the Young Turks, the Ring of Fire, Tom Hartman, and Secular Talk for dishing out the real news so that I could make an informed decision on who not to vote for. You get that, people? Who not to vote for. The only one left was Jill Stein. I saw her on TYT interviews a while back, and at that moment in time, when asked by Cenk Uygur about Black Lives Matter, she appeared to hesitate as if she never gave them a thought. That was a heavy blow back then. Bernie was still in the primary, and I did vote for him in the primary and swore to write his name in until he backed Hillary out of fear. I wanted to prove to my co-host and other half that Jill Stein didn't care about Black Lives Matter, and when I watched the video, what I saw wasn't there. This was just 3 months from Election Day. I watched it twice and kept repeating that moment in the interview several times, and nothing. It wasn't there. It wasn't taken out or edited. I don't know what I saw the first time, but the next dozen or so times proved the first time was a judgmental hoax. I evolved and supported her. It was logical. Now, you might be asking or just curious as to what allowed me to evolve. If so or not, it's cool. You're cool. I'll tell you this, it's not what you think. No one got in my ear or anything. This was personal. What made me evolve into this stance was something a small amount of people can understand. What happened was I stopped being bullied. You might find yourself giving me that sideways look, duck face, shooing me away, smacking your lips, or shaking your head. It's simple and true. When I turned 18, I had to register for the draft. I never got a voter's registration like I heard so much about. Politically, it would be some time before I got registered to vote. I voted Democrat because that's what black people do. We vote blue. Why? Because we're told to, and we learned the Republicans are racist, hateful liars. It didn't matter, just vote Democrat. Were Republicans really that bad? I didn't know, but my woman and my friend were more anti-Republican than pro-Democrat. That bothered me a bit. I questioned on the idea of voting for someone other than a Democrat or Republican. My friend who studied politics was against third parties because they don't have a chance to win. That bothered me. It didn't matter if that candidate was better for the country or could be used as a power against those who only do harm to the people for their own greed. I learned that people felt that way. I tried researching third parties as to why it was like this, but I only found facts on the origin, cause, platforms, and ticket statistics per election cycle. It took a few years, but I understood that people were brainwashed through their natural fears and shame into only voting for the two parties. I didn't want that for me. The only reason I voted for Kerry and Obama twice was because I knew how bad the Republicans were. I was so proud to vote Obama the first time, but not the second. TYT talked about Larry Lessig and his mandate to get money out of politics. Finally, someone who was not one of the two choices was able to be heard by some of the public. Bernie Sanders' name came up and they were both talked about seriously by TYT. I pushed for Lessig wherever I could. He was forced out, and the reason why was most important. He did what the DNC wanted and they refused to let him into the debates. I then began learning about the DNC and what they do. I heard of Jill Stein, but she was labeled a Green Party joke, a vanity candidate that would only cannibalize votes from the real candidate. I heard it, but what evidence did I have? My friend and the people online who hated all third parties was all the evidence I needed. When Lessig dropped out, I was on board for Bernie. And when Bernie dropped out, I was politically heartbroken. That led into being pissed and questioning everything about Bernie. That left Jill Stein, and if you recall what I said before, you know why I stood at her side. What those close to me think is personally important to me. I'll go even deeper. Maybe even something you all out there didn't think about. It is always a goal for Democrats to gain the Black and Latino vote. Don't you find that interesting? Why heavily gain the vote of the two largest minorities in the country? See, I thought it was because they looked out for us. I was wrong. They used our fear of Republicans to secure our favor. We have been nothing less than political cattle. Without overwhelming pressure from political leaders, backed by their followers' demands, nothing in history would have been done. Thanks to shame and pressure on political figures, slaves were freed, Social Security born, abortions legalized, blacks able to vote, women able to vote, immigrants given a better chance at citizenship, higher wages, more jobs, and the list goes on. Great things we have, but not because it was the right thing, but because the right amount of pressure was used. To my core, I believe that doing the right thing means pressure need not be used where simply asking would be thought-provoking enough to get it started. I'm talking to all the minorities out there when I say that a candidate that has a history of racial apathy to racist ways should not be someone you vote for. Hearing them say what you want to hear is not the same as them actually fighting the good fight to see their rhetoric come to fruition. As a black person, what I experienced growing up, and even to the days before the election, I don't want to use my only vote to usher into power someone who doesn't give a damn about me. I can even talk to the majority of the country, the white people out there. What I say to the minorities apply to you too. If you honestly believe the USA is great, the land of opportunity, and a free nation, then it does a great dishonor and disservice to you to pander to minorities and then ignore those promises. That hurts you just as much as it does us. How can you, with a clear heart, vote for someone that will not uphold their public vow to uphold equality, liberty, justice, and freedom for all? How can you, like anyone who needs money to survive, vote for anyone who ruins the dreams of people by sending jobs overseas for their corporate donors? With so much to be created, and discovered in ways of technology and more, stifling the growth of your fellow neighbors across the country is simply using power to hurt you. Apathy is just as bad, if not worse, than actions that have only hurt this country. My vote for Jill Stein was the single most proud vote of my life. I broke away from social conformity and paid media propaganda. I listened to all sides, even sides I didn't agree with, so that I could make an informed decision. I didn't listen to the anger of people demanding me to do what they were taught. No, trained to do. I didn't vote for someone just because they had a better chance at winning. I didn't vote for someone just because they were with my current registered party. I didn't throw away my vote because my vote was my vote. It was actually my vote. People vote how they are supposed to vote. They vote how they need to vote to keep people off their back. I voted based on if that person is good for me. I didn't cater to the so-called two-party system. I catered to me. This is my only life, and each time I vote, at that moment, it is my only vote, and that vote needs to go to who I personally believe is the right person for me. That candidate is the closest reflection to who I am and what I need. And for November 8th, 2016, that was Jill Stein. In closing, I want to thank Jesse Ventura, who aided in guiding me. He said that it is his civic duty to vote for the candidate that he thinks is best for the country. He said that you only throw your vote away when you vote for someone you don't fully believe is the right person to represent you. He boasted for Bernie Sanders, Jill Stein, Larry Lessig, and people who may never see the political light of day. I hope in the coming years, for all levels of our political system, people open their eyes, listen to themselves, and get better information beyond the manipulative paid media and vote for the person who they find to actually care about them. This is Cedric Kennedy for Comparative Reasoning and for free and fair elections in the future. Thank you for listening. Thank you for reading. Thank you for understanding. Thank you.